In today's video, we're going to be discussing the better everyday speed trainer, coming down to the Asics Magic Speed and the Nike Zoom Fly 4. Let's compare and contrast, and let's find out which one's the better shoe. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed and watching this content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Specs for both shoes respectively are going to be right here. So I guess what we can discuss first, for those who may not be familiar with the utility of these shoes, is when you have your race day shoe, whether it's the Vaporfly Next% 2, the Alphafly, the Metaspeed Sky, the Endorphin Pros, you name it, you should probably have a shoe that's going to conserve the life of your racing shoes, but isn't going to be so fast that it's basically going to burn you out before race day. So what we have is this middle ground, which is a shoe that typically has a slightly slower, more durable, more relaxed midsole and outsole on the shoe, with some elements of that technology for speed associated in the shoe. So in this case with the Zoom Fly 4, we have a carbon plate, and same thing with the Magic Speed. And that's where both of these shoes are. They're essentially on paper supposed to be the training counterparts for the Vaporfly Next% 2 and the Metaspeed Sky respectively. But they have a few changes, of course, that give them kind of a different edge in training and also a different sensation here and there. So the first thing we can obviously talk about are some of the general specs that are different. Of course, between this shoe, as you can see, there is an 8mm offset, which gives you more of this toe to forefoot strike and resembles actually a little bit more of the Vaporfly Next% 2's strike points, although the stack height is not exactly the same, but it still provides you with that ball foot strike that you're looking for. With the Magic Speed, something interesting happens. I don't exactly own the Metaspeed Sky, so I don't know how this translates in training, but the Metaspeed Sky, to my knowledge, has an 8mm offset, and the Magic Speed has 5. And now the stack heights, again, are slightly different as a result, and also there's a carbon plate running the full length of the Metaspeed Sky, and it's only half length, I think, to an extent. Somewhere about here it stops in the Magic Speed. So those are some of the major differences in terms of their racing shoe counterparts. So let's talk about some other the other main differences and reactions that I've had from the shoe overall. So two things I guess we can go off here is, one, the midsole of the shoe here is obviously a little bit more mesh. It's very breathable, as you can guess, and it's like kind of two-layered in that sense, where we have this one layer of mesh and then there's a second piece underneath that kind of gives it that second gradual coating and a little bit more of a hug around the foot in that sort of area. Textile, of course, is kind of standard. It's not too many moving parts. It's just kind of standard to Nike's build on more of these training everyday speed racer shoes. And the one thing that this shoe in particular does that I've noticed compared to the Magic Speed is that there's a better hug on the foot, and it's a little bit more narrow riding, the shoe from the midpoint of your foot outward. And the ankle lock itself is very, I guess the word I'm looking for is not great comparatively to the Magic Speed. And the reason for that is because, again, there isn't a whole lot of material that's kind of keeping your ankle secured. Yes, you've got this, Achilles pillow and whatnot, but the material itself is just kind of moves around in this area. So you do have to tie the shoe down pretty well in this midfoot area to get the best results. And as a consequence of this, from my running sensations, I will feel the midfoot area sometimes ache in the shoe, mostly because the strike slightly changes based on the way the ankle kind of moves, and I will experience a little bit of ankle soreness later on as a result of this weird phenomenon going in this area. Also, a little bit of a textile difference between the shoes. There's a heel pull tab on the Zoom Fly 4. Magic Speed does not have one. So, transitioning right on to the Magic Speed, pretty much kind of flip side of what I was talking about with the Zoom Fly 4. In this area, the material is still quite breathable. It's not necessarily mesh, as it is more kind of like this scaled textile in the area. You can kind of see through it, but it's not nearly as open as like the Zoom Fly 4. Now, what is different, I think, in this shoe right now, at least based on how I'm experiencing it, is, yeah, there's a good lock in like the midfoot, forefoot area, but there's a much stronger lock in this heel and ankle area. And as a result, you can really feel yourself getting locked down when you tie this shoe properly, and as a consequence, sometimes you will feel a little bit of, like, not necessarily a heel grind, but post run, you may feel a little bit of like heel, I guess, nerve pinching in a sense. It's because the shoe just locks down so well and it forces your heel to almost kind of keep this position all the way through as you're running in the shoe, and you don't have that much flexibility. And as a result, like, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of, movement within the shoe area itself. But again, some people experience slightly different things depending on, I guess, your shoe size and like how it translates into an Asics. But like in my case, like the fit is pretty nice, but this ankle lock is like superb. But again, I noticed these little pinching points in the heel area as a result. So that's, of course, one of the things to obviously note. So now let's talk about some of the similarities. Again, because these shoes are supposed to be the training counterparts, they are built similar to their racing counterpart shoes in the sense that, yeah, both shoes have, I guess, a foam equivalent where it's like the training durability, reactability, step down piece to the racing foam. So like, of course, Flight Foam Blast is what's running across the Asics Magic Speed, and we have React running all the way across, just one solid piece. Another thing that's also similar in both shoes is there isn't a whole lot of lugs placed on the shoes for grip, because I guess the shoe is assumed to be a speed racer trainer on roads rather than like on trails. It doesn't mean you can't ride them on trails, but like if you're gonna take them like up on a mountain run or something like that, maybe you should reconsider and probably not use these shoes. The word I was gonna say was luggage, but that's, there's not a whole lot of luggage on both shoes, as you can tell. But yeah, that's not the phrasing I want to go with. So those are some of the immediate differences I'm experiencing here. Again, now let's go into more some of the runner-specific caveats here. So if you're a heel striker, which, again, I don't think there's anything... I've heard people say it's like kind of bad to heel strike. I started off as a heel strike and I eventually got over it. If you're in that phase of your running career where you're heel striking a lot, the Magic Speed might not be the best reactive shoe for you because the carbon plate runs only halfway across the shoe. So if you heel strike, you're going to get a lot of soft foam and you're not going to get the return you'd be looking for if you were, trying to get that carbon plate push. So yeah, that's just something to note, is you're probably not going to get it out of the Magic Speed. Now, as if you run in the Zoom Fly 4 with the carbon plate running all the way across the shoe, you're probably going to get a little bit more of that return from the carbon plate and perhaps some kind of like rebound as your foot rolls along. But in my opinion, the Zoom Fly 4 doesn't really have a great roll nearly as much as the Magic Speed, because as you can see, the shoe does kind of angle upward and it has this almost natural roll to it if you're a mid-foot striker. And this is something I've seen in a lot of videos before with like some of the professional athletes, with like whether it's Lucy Charles or Lionel Sanders when they're running in the Metaspeed Sky. They strike like in this heel area sometimes and close to the midfoot, and the landing of the shoe is just really awkward to watch. There's just not like much of a roll, and it's something that if they were running in like a New Balance, I guess like a 1080 version 11 where the shoe has a better roll to it, they might have just a more comfortable time with it, even though the shoe is not meant to be fast overall. So overall, which shoe do I think is the better speed everyday racer shoe that you could buy? Well, from what I understand of the Zoom Fly 4, the shoe is somewhere around $160 to $200. The Magic Speed, I got mine for like about $100. So price range wise, if you want to go with the cheaper option, the Magic Speed is probably the move, with a few caveats, of course. In my current experience right now, the shoe barely has 100 miles. It still kind of feels a little bit flat, and I'm still trying to get used to it and trying to find that oomph in the shoe, that speed that I thought was going to be there. I'm still trying to pick it out, because like the Zoom Fly 4 has that speed. I get that roll out of it, but the problem is like this shoe's already 400 plus miles. This shoe doesn't really do it justice. It's this right foot where you can see really kind of just burned it all the way down to the point where the React is kind of being used, and at this point the outsole is just, it's over, so that's kind of one of the things to note. So like, also to note with that was that in the Zoom Fly 4, when I was running on more road and trails versus like treadmills, even on the treadmills, there would be that ache in the foot, particularly like in the ball of the foot, sort of in the mid-foot area of the shoe as well, just because of like maybe the shoe design, with the shoe just being so tough, because it's using React, which is supposed to be a lot more dense and a lot more I guess the word I'm looking for is stable than like a ZoomX foam carbon plate combination, which a lot of people have just grown to love in like the Vaporfly Next Percent Alpha Fly, you know. So there's a bit of a toughness to this shoe that it can be, I guess, very discomforting to run with if you're not used to having a slightly tougher shoe with a carbon plate in it. So that's kind of one of the things with the Zoom Fly 4 to note. With the Magic Speed, again, it's still feeling kind of flat. I'm looking for that carbon plate launch in the shoe still, but at 50 plus miles in, I just don't have it yet. And like based on comments I've seen before on some of the other videos and some people messaging me on the side, it really does take a little bit of distance to finally get the Magic Speed like working. Like you gotta find its prime point as you start kind of breaking it in to essentially get the speed that you're looking for out of this shoe. So with all of this being considered, at this specific point in time, I still think the Zoom Fly 4 was the better everyday speed trainer. But again, like I said just a couple of seconds ago, I've been running in this shoe a lot longer than the Magic Speed, and I can't 100% confirm that after 100 or 200 plus miles, this shoe is just going to absolutely dominate. Maybe when the time comes and I finally match the distances with the Zoom Fly 4 and the Magic Speed, I can give that perfect assessment. But this is just my kind of quick transitional assessment of, hey, I just finished running in the Zoom Fly 4s. I need another everyday speed trainer that isn't a Nike brand, that is a little bit cheaper and something I can experiment with that isn't a common brand that I've used. And it was, of course, the Magic Speed. So transitionally from this everyday racer into this everyday racer, I still kind of like the Zoom Fly 4 a little bit more despite some of my experiences with it. But again, too soon to tell. I'll probably have a follow-up video once this shoe hits a couple of certain key milestones in its mileage and we could start really experiencing some of the, you know, the grandeur that this shoe may provide. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this here. If you agree or disagree with any of my assessments or you have any sort of questions between both of the shoes, you know, just let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer and, you know, just kind of get whatever feedback you guys kind of send my way. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to leave this video. So again, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.